Hi, I'm Etta Spencer, and today we are going to really travel. We are going to Malaysia and we're going to Uzbekistan. How about that? All in one Zoom conversation. So I'm thrilled to have this conversation set up. I've been waiting for ages to try to get something like it going, and because my friend Konstantin Samoilov is a man who fled from Russia when they began to conscript men to go fight in the war in Ukraine. He decided he didn't want to kill any Ukrainians, so he left. And he's not the only one. I understand something like 1 million other men also left Russia for various parts of the world, which is why we are not going to Moscow today, although all the men that I'm going to introduce you to are Russians. Konstantin himself is living in Tashkent in Uzbekistan, where he has a nightly streaming show that everybody should watch because it's always so interesting. And he has introduced me to a friend of his named Roman, who is living normally, I think these days, in Sri Lanka, but he and his family are on a vacation in Malaysia now. So that's where he is this morning. Also in Tashkent are two other Russian men who had fled from Russia in order to keep from having to go to war. Maxim, who is an AI specialist and was teaching AI and artificial intelligence in a Moscow university when he had to get out of the country. And Nikita, who is now calling himself Nick, I think it's a wonderful idea because it'll make it a lot easier to get used to being a Westerner if you're Nick. And Nick is also in Tashkent, and Nick was, before he had to leave, he was an electrical design engineer, and he used to live in St. Petersburg. So now he is in Tashkent, and I presume that these men are all members of the Breakfast Club that Konstantin initiated. It's a terrific idea. He created a club for people who had left Russia under these horrible circumstances, and they meet every day for breakfast, or at least some of them do. And he says there are over 1,000 people in that group. I imagine many of them have moved on to other parts of the world as they try to find a place to settle and put down roots. Well, now, the thing about you, Roman, Konstantin tells me that you are kind of a specialist on this situation. I myself have been concerned for over a year about the plight of you wonderful men who have decided to leave your country rather than be sent to war. And the fact that you have such difficulty getting papers to settle in various other countries. So people have had to scatter and maybe live in places that that wouldn't be your first choice. So Konstantin tells me that you really know your stuff, that you keep track of people in this situation. So can you just, you and Konstantin, could you start off briefing me on what the situation is and how you know each other, what maybe people in the West could do for you? Because I think there are people who really would want to welcome you with garlands of flowers, whereas our governments seem to be not even letting you in the door. So if we need to, since we do live in democratic societies, we need to use whatever clout we have to try to press for some changes. And I want to encourage all of my friends and viewers to do that. But we'll get to later talking about what we might be able to do. First, Roman, just tell me what the situation is as you understand it?
Actually, the main problem is that Russian passports for Western world became not a bit like a very toxic one. So actually, even people uh, who against this situation in Russia and who left it, so they don't have any support just to move to other normal countries, I mean like Western countries, because actually if we even want to get like a tourist visa for example for European Union, so we have to go we have to come back to Russia. So just so interesting, yeah, to apply a visa to go to Europe.
Would you
Yeah, this
immediately
is the
be
point.
arrested if you went back to Russia?
It depends on actually, if to be honest, not everybody going to be arrested. So
Some of us
you should
would.
be,
Some of
yeah,
us would.
yeah. It should be like mitigating like circumstances. If you, but the main problem is not like about arrested. It's all about that you might go to the war, even if you don't want, and if you're even against it. But you have to go, and this is the main problem. Actually, about arrests, I think it's not a big issue, but to go to the war, if you are just in the middle age, like me, 36 years old, so you might be there. So this is the main issue, and even for US, even we applied tourist visas. For example, in Kazakhstan, it was in October 2022. We came there in the embassy, and the first question was like, when you left Russia. We told that it was end of September when mobilization started, actually, and then immigration officer wasn't interested at all in our case. He was like, okay, thank you very much. See you next time. Your application form is cancelled. Only one question, and he was not more interested in our case, like when we left Russia after mobilization or before mobilization. And in our case, we couldn't get even tourist visa. We're not speaking about green cards, residence visas in other countries. So this is the main problem why people who actually against this situation in Russia, they're even more toxic than people who are in Russia now. Like for Western world, and we're not allowed to come. Yeah. This is why we're speaking from. We got our conversation now from Uzbekistan, from Sri Lanka. If to be honest, this is a really good countries, but this is not about what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wanna study, we wanna work, we wanna grow our children in other countries like Canada, like US, like Australia, Europe. So, but we're not allowed to come in.
Well, I'm finding it almost amusing to think of the adjustments that you have to make moving from a place like Moscow or St. Petersburg to Sri Lanka, because the gap, there's so many differences, more than moving to Canada. I mean, you have not only language differences, because almost nobody in Russia speaks Tamil or one of the Sri Lankan languages, and the temperature, the climate is so different, and the cultural background in terms of things like the local religious traditions and even how you eat with your fingers, and there are all kinds of
This is the
changes
point.
that
This
you
is
have
the
to
point. Yeah.
make.
And
to-
what are you eating actually? Only rice and curry? Yeah,
Yeah,
without
right.
meat
And spices. I mean, I had a German
and spices
living with
as
me
well.
for a
Yeah.
while, and she had not been exposed to spices, but I had a Sri Lankan family living with me where everything had spices, and this girl leaped up from the table and ran around the room, because she
That,
wasn't
that's
used to it.
absolutely true. You can understand Sri Lanka now. You really can understand.
Well, my congratulations to you for making the effort, because it might be quite rewarding, really, to see how you can change and become a Sri Lankan. Okay, well, okay, but obviously the disadvantages are really awful, and I think it's really, to my mind, it's really quite immoral, because if we want to encourage people to become conscientious objectors and say no to war, and especially no to at least no to an unjust war such as this one, then we have to defend the people who actually take that step, which requires a lot of courage, and I salute all of you for that. But can you maybe explain the thinking going on? It should be up to me to explain it, because I'm living in the West and I don't understand it. All I know is that when I tried to get an interview with Konstantin and some other Russian men with Bob Rae, who is Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, and formerly, he could have been the Prime Minister of Canada if he really wanted to. He would have been happy to talk to you guys, but he had to check with Ottawa to see if they would let him talk to Russians, and they said no, they wouldn't let him. He had to talk. He could talk to me, but he couldn't talk to you. Now, explain that to me, somebody. I don't get it. Do you have a notion of what goes on in the minds of people who think that there'd be some danger in talking to you?
Just for that example you gave, I have even a better one.
Yeah.
So recently I spoke to an immigration lawyer based in Pennsylvania, in the USA. And I basically needed to confirm one thing, that there's a federal law in the United States, and I needed an immigration advice. And the lady gave me exactly the opposite advice she misled me. And I think she did it on purpose. She's an attorney and I was seeking for an advice, and she gave me an opinion, which is, even me not being an attorney, I know it wasn't true. But and the only reason I could think of the way she acted yesterday, she doesn't like Russians, and I was shocked. Okay, so that happens at different levels and with different people, not with just the top officials, and not just in Canada. That's what I wanted to add to what you just said.
Well, okay, let's assume that it has something to do with not liking Russians. What's that all about?
They associate us with those Russians who are fighting in Ukraine, with those who are not doing good deeds. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I mean, in Russia, the official position is that you're a coward and that you're a traitor.
Traitors
Because you don't defend your country. So you can make, somebody wants to make that argument, but that's obviously not the argument that an immigration lawyer in the US would make.
I left to Uzbekistan. I started to plan next steps. How can I get to Germany?
Mhm.
I found myself that I had to get some visa, and I just found out that I cannot even go to German embassy here in Uzbekistan. It's very strange. I even contacted the German ambassador here, and he told me that even I can go here only in two cases in German embassy. The first one, if I can have a job invitation to Germany, and the second one, if I have a student visa, an invitation from a university to be a student.
Mhm.
I just like wanted to travel there to my friend. He could provide me a living place and his family to host me in, but I couldn't even get there. And when I told the whole situation to him, he just told me, he as a Westerner just told me like, what's the problem? There are a lot of Turks here in Germany. How you couldn't get here, just like hop through the borders and get in? And me personally, I couldn't imagine myself doing that stunts.
Sneaking in. You didn't want to sneak in.
Sneaking in, I don't want to get some illegal troubles in European Union. So I couldn't imagine myself doing those scenarios.
Do you speak any German?
Very little, but as far as I heard from my friend, many Germans speak English, so I couldn't find any problems on some basic level. To work there and fully live there, yes, of course, I had to learn German on higher levels, but just to live there, work remotely or in IT, some remote IT company, it's not even a problem there.
Well, I was just wondering whether, I mean, if you knew any German, you might be able to, get somebody to help you get a job in AI. I mean, I presume that is a place where where there are lots of new jobs. I don't know, but
I've sent like 100 letters to different scientific universities, German organizations like Get in Germany, and those institutions, those government institutions are, I don't know, overcrowded with letters or something. They respond for 3 or 4 months on simplest questions like which level of English I have to which English certification I have to have like to apply to visa, and they respond for 4 months me with only on that simple question. So I got tired like with trying to get there and started to search another ways.
is there an official decision at the EU level? I mean, have the European Union, or I mean the European Parliament or something, has anybody made a law or a policy that's official saying that the conditions under which people can come from Russia into the EU, or is it just sort of happenstance that all of the people there happen to have the same kind of prejudices? What has gone on that has created this? As I understand it, it's pretty well true throughout the EU that all the countries make it difficult for people to immigrate from Russia, right?
Right. They all publicly claiming that we are creating multiple occasions for people to come from Russia with professions from universities, etc., etc., etc. And you starting researching those themes, and you finding out, that's that some governor from France said and nothing really happened. It's some local governor from Germany said and nothing really happened. Belgium even forbidden all Russians from enter. Norwegian kingdom like also prohibited all Russians from entering, and it's a mess in European Union from documentary point, from all that stuff.
Well, the
or
only
from
person
law
that
perspective.
I know and like, I won't name him, but he was a very important person in Russia before he left. He's the only person I've talked to who kind of acts as if he has the same prejudice. He's Russian, but he lives in Switzerland. And he said, well, yeah, some of these people might be spies. Now, is that maybe the underlying suspicion that that the main thing to watch out for is there going to be lots of spies coming in pretending to be escapees, as you are from Russia?
Meta, may I answer this question?
Yeah.
The thing is, the spies will infiltrate in any way, in any circumstance.
Yeah.
Okay, because spies, that's what they do. That's what they're trained. That's their entire life's purpose. They're very professional at that. If you close your entire country for Russians, it's still full of spies because you have embassy. And inside the embassy, you cannot not let the diplomats or consulars or staff come. You must. If you have embassy in Russia, then you must Russians come and set up embassy in your country. And that's full of spies, for goodness sake. So that argument, in my eyes, does not stand. Okay, those people are very resourceful. They will find ways how to get to the countries of their interest.
Okay, now my argument would be quite different, and it would surprise you because almost nobody agrees with me, and that is, I would say, okay, if they're spies, come on in. I don't care, because I believe that spies are good, and it's a very important key point to me to believe in being as truthful and honest as possible, because I think the world needs more truth and not more privacy or more secrecy. And one time I was at the United Nations in the cafeteria for lunch with a friend of mine who was working there. He'd been in the UN for his whole life. He even started before it was the UN, while it was a planning stage. And he said, I said, I bet there are a lot of spies in this room. It's a huge cafeteria, like 1,000 people. And he said, yeah. And he said, good thing too, because the spies really do a great service for peace. The more countries know about each other, the more they can solve problems. And so it's much better for countries to know everything is possible about the country that they think is maybe their adversary. And I hadn't thought about it before, but since then I've become convinced that that's true. Anyway, I won't try to persuade you that I'm right, because nobody agrees with me.
I haven't heard that before, but you know what? I like that point of view. I like it very much. It falls very much into my understanding of what the world should be, an open, transparent society. So thank you.
But I can promise you will get more in trouble for telling the truth than for telling lies.
Yeah, I also tried to get a visa to the United States. I have a godmother living there. She's a citizen of the United States, I think for 20 years or something like this. I had an invitation from her, and I just applied for visa, and I waited something like 1 year for an interview. I came there and they just said, no, you're not eligible. They give me some paper with explanation, and I read it, and it was and there was written that I didn't prove that I wasn't that I had no purpose to stay in the United States forever, to migrate to the United States, and that I have enough roots in Russia to came back. Of course, I didn't have I didn't want to get back to Russia, but I also didn't want to migrate to the United States at that time. I just had some plans to stay there for some time. So I had no migration purposes. So
And,
1 year of waiting and with no result.
you were doing this from Tashkent, is that what?
Yeah, I tried to get a visa in Kazakhstan, in Almaty.
From where?
Kazakhstan, Almaty.
Oh, you were in
Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Are the positions of the in Kazakhstan similar to the situation in Uzbekistan, or is it better to be in one or the other country?
Well, I'm not sure about it. I just know that that time when I just applied for visa, there were different ways to apply to Tashkent embassy and to embassy in Almaty. Tashkent embassy just you needed to send them message, so email, and it was a bit more difficult just to do it because, for example, I don't know why, but Kazakhstan embassy works with United States government site.
My children came to visit me from Maine. They're born and raised in the USA. They're US citizens. They're only citizens of one country, the United States of America. They're as American as apple pie, you know.
Mhm.
And they had an emergency. They needed to get to the embassy and ask for help. And I took them to the embassy, and they were not let in by the guards. They showed their passports. They explained their situation. And there's a huge embassy here in Tashkent. And the guards turned them down. They said, there's no one in the embassy to help you. I was like, what? And they were absolutely shocked. Sky, she works with the government, so she wasn't as shocked. But Jake, he just turned 18. It was his first time. He said, look, what happens if something happens to me? Where do I go? I thought the U.S. Embassy would just is there to help me. That's the purpose. Well, I guess not. They did not let them in. Imagine that. That happened in March. I started filming, and the guard nearly beat me. He said, you can't film here in front of the U.S. Embassy and all of that. So he made me delete what I filmed. So it was this is how the U.S. Embassy in Tashkent works. That's why the guys go to Kazakhstan.
You said Kazakhstan wouldn't be as bad.
Well, yes, in Kazakhstan, somehow they treat people differently in the U.S. Embassy, and they must treat U.S. citizens differently, because here, my children, U.S. citizens, were not let in, and they required assistance from the U.S. Embassy.
Well, I have to apologize. I'm a dual citizen of
As a
Canada.
Canadian, for the
No, I can't apologize.
That's a good one.
I can't apologize as a
mate.
Canadian, but I'm a dual citizen of Canada and the U.S. So wearing my U.S. hat, I hereby apologize.
Did they say why you were not allowed to come in? What was the reason? Is it
they were
legal?
First of all, they were not American. They were locals, Uzbek. They spoke perfect English, but I take it they were either naturalized U.S. citizens working there or working by contract. And they simply, no, we don't let you in. And they said, there's no one to talk to you at the moment. Come back later, like tomorrow. Artaga.
So actually, no Americans have been in embassy. Only
Yes,
Uzbek
yeah.
stuff.
That's a huge embassy. That's the biggest one in Central Asia. It's full of different kinds of people there, you know. And we can see there's lots of activity because embassy is surrounded by a see-through fence, and we see this as tons of stuff going on. They ended up going back home. Sky was thinking of complaining to her U.S. senator. She knows. I know personally Senator Agnes King. I met him when he was the governor of Maine way back. And a friend of mine, well, my partner in Philadelphia, he reached out to his senator and he complained or something like that. So, but nothing happened. They don't care. That's how the government works. They just look at you and go, "Oh well."
Roman, I understand you keep track of a lot of Russian escapees. Can you give me some sense of where most of them wind up and what countries they find it easier to get into and how they're doing? Just an overview of the whole batch of people who've left Russia because of this crisis.
If to be honest, the available countries becoming less and less every day. Like firstly, lots of people left to Turkey just because they bought some apartments there and climate is okay. And lots of Russians used to go to Turkey for vacation. Yeah, it's like for Russians, other Russian region, just about vacation. And I think it's all about politics. So I think they were speaking like politics from Russia and politics from Turkey, like privately. And in few months, they started to cancel all residence visas, so just without any issues. People already rent an apartment there for whole year and made walk-in visas or something like this. And in some period, immigration officers started to cancel all visas. So, if to be honest, nowadays Turkey is almost closed to Russians to live there. Okay, you can come to vacation for 1 or 2 weeks, and that's it. And it's happening with other countries as well, like Kazakhstan. So actually, you cannot, without a residence visa, you cannot live there as much as you want. You have to leave for 90 days. But actually, you should understand, so relocation, it's not vacation. Yeah, you cannot just live in one country for, I don't know, half a year, and then just to move to other country for other 90 days. So actually, it's absolutely not convenient, And if to be honest, if you got money, lots of Russians left to Emirates. They bought their apartments. But other interesting point that lots of people from Emirates, they're from political Russian system, just because they had money and they can live there. So, but they're not relocants. They just for them, just Europe closed, as for us, for example, and they decided to live in Emirates or something like this. If to be honest, only one country haven't changed their plans for relocants from Russia. Actually, it's still Uzbekistan, I think. Yeah, Konstantin. So actually, you still can live as much as you want. Yeah,
you are absolutely right. We do not need any kind of visas. We can come here and live currently forever, as long as we, follow certain local procedures, such as registration. You have to register the place where you live for up to 6 months, and then you have to re-register. You don't have to do a visa run, don't have to leave the country. So, Roman, nothing has changed. And you're absolutely right. I think Uzbekistan is the friendliest, or one of among few the friendliest countries for Russians to move to live. You can open a company, either private proprietorship, or you can open a real company, LLC. You can get work authorization. That's easy. So
Mhm.
I don't know
So
of any other place that is so friendly towards Russians.
in my opinion, it's not only about a friendship. It's all about how in government think smart, because everybody should understand that stupid, or I don't know, addicted in alcohol people didn't leave Russia. Actually. Russia left like really smart people, scientists, engineers, doctors, businessmen, or something like this. So Uzbekistan can understand, and Georgia as well. Georgia, in this case, and Armenia. So actually, they can understand that these people will bring more profit for them, for the economy, because obviously they will not like sit and be sad, just drink and think about their finished life, and in the result, we can see that economics in these countries is really growing last 2-3 years. Like in Uzbekistan, if you can see, their economy is growing so rapidly. Armenia as well, Georgia, Israel. Now, because we used to work with people who are leaving who live in Russia and going to Israel. And for example, if 2 years ago they had to get like lots of documents, like hundreds of documents.
Officially, the country is always open.
Previously, even if you are Jewish, you had to get a lots of documents, to prove that your grandparents, your parents, Jewish actually, Israeli people. But now they made it so.
They simplified the admittance.
Yeah, this is the point. And now, actually, to get invitation from Israel government, you have to find just maybe one relative, I don't know, from somewhere or something. But now it's much easier to get invitation from Israel government. And again, it's really smart idea, because they are thinking about the next generation. So now if they're getting like people 35, 30, 20, 25 years old with the diplomas, with the experience and something like this, obviously that next they will get profit from this situation. And I can understand now Israel, they're applying like a lots of invitations, and it's not about friendship. It's all about smart strategy about their economy. This
Roman,
is why actually
I didn't say friendship. I said friendly.
Friendly. Okay.
Uzbekistan is very friendly, have friendly policies towards Russians.
Well, let me ask you about that. Is a friendly attitude in Uzbekistan reflective of a more hostile attitude toward Putin's government, or does that make any difference? Would the Uzbek political position toward Russia be any different from that of one of the other Kazakhstan, or
There's one big problem with those Uzbekistan people. They watch Russian TV. It's widely available to them. They watch it all the time. A lot of them are confused because they support Russia. They've historically been tied to Russia. It was easy for Uzbeks to go and as migrant workers and work in Russia for some time, earn better money, and then come back and support their families. But they are very peaceful people, and they confused about what the heck is going on, why Russia is attacking Ukraine. They also know Ukraine. It's it's used to be a same country with Uzbekistan. You know, they know that Ukraine and Uzbekistan also have ties, and a lot of them are confused. But those are, there are some who support the war. Not, I can't say that they don't support the war. They support Russia. Okay, they think that people are misinformed and so forth. And then there are those who oppose, of course. Those who oppose the numbers are growing because Russia has been threatening to annex Uzbekistan. So that Uzbeks are not taking that well.
Okay. Well, it's hard to sometimes decipher what is meant because they don't necessarily say what the political intentions are behind a particular policy. For example, I mean, even Canada is not easy for Russians to get into, as you know. Maybe they're a little easier than the US, though, because, Konstantin, you and I had a conversation with a young Russian man who was then in Kazakhstan, yes, and he was trying to get into Canada, and because his background was he was an athlete, and I think he was a physiotherapist later, doing athletic physio, and so I not pull strings, but what I did is I got in touch with a man who used to be the most famous Canadian Olympic athlete in his day. By now he's an older man, but in his day he was very famous as an outstanding athlete in the Olympics. And then he went on to have very high positions in other areas. So he wrote a letter on behalf of this young man because I asked him to. And sure enough, the guy got admitted with his family to, I think he's living in Halifax now. And I think it was maybe the influence of this one letter that had a certain amount of clout. But the thing is that in Canada, there's so many Ukrainians. There's a huge population of Ukrainians, many of whom came several generations ago, But it's not even clear to me what the attitude of the Ukrainian community as a whole is toward these Russian newcomers or immigrants from people who are refusing to fight. I'm not sure that there's any well-defined attitude, but of course historically there would be a lot of animosity between the Ukrainians and Russians just because of, these people had to leave often for their own reasons. So I can't make sense of even in my own country what all these things mean. The other day, Konstantin, I have to admit, the last couple of days, I haven't watched your show. I've had other things I had to do. Usually I used to be very faithful, but I missed a couple of now and then. And I did see the title of a couple of shows indicating that you were talking about some changes in the status of Russian escapees, such as yourself. Is there some change in the law or the way laws are being administered in Russia about people like you?
Yes, I'll be glad to inform you on what's happening. Actually, in the last few days, things started moving into a not very pleasant direction for us. I did quite a big title, something like that's the end game for the refugees. And it wasn't a clickbait. That's absolutely what I meant. The thing is, they are finally turning towards us. They're focusing, they're paying attention. They start paying attention towards us.
Mhm.
You got to understand that Russian government had too much on its hands in the past 2 years. It invaded a country and it had to somehow sell the idea of a just war to, the population. And then they were trying to figure it out. And us leaving was the priority number 239. They didn't care. Okay. But then they got certain things out. That's number one. And number two, they started feeling the result, the impact of us having left Russia. They understand that 3 million people, minus 3 million people from the labor force, educated, most of us, I'd say 95% are high education professionals, good careers we had in Russia, left. Well, if a neurosurgeon is working here in Tashkent, then he's certainly not working back in Russia where he used to work, and everyone else is like that, okay? So they started making our lives as difficult as possible, and they have started taking actions. News are coming out, like right now there's a big news came out, okay? So this is breaking. First of all, they're tightening regulation on how we can get our passports abroad. Okay, and they're not just talking; they started walking the walk. They started creating the laws. They're creating a law that allows members of consulates and embassies of Russia all over the world to seize our passports. Yes, they couldn't do that in the past. The only authorities who could seize our passports were special authorities in Russia. Okay, but now if say a consulate looks at my passport and he finds something is suspicious, he is suspicious of something, he seizes my passport and gives me a little paper that allows me to enter Russia. That's definitely a blow to our security, and it's blow to our to us in general.
Hey,
And then
what happened just
the
now?
latest.
Yeah, hold on.
What's that?
Something weird. Did you notice that a thumbs up came up in a bubble above your head? And why? Did you do that or did
As an AI specialist, that's built-in feature in MacBooks from computer vision. Like I can hold this one and it starts appearing like this.
Did you do it, Maxime?
No, it's built-in Apple MacBooks.
Oh, so if I do that,
yes.
Okay.
You did it
It's
accidentally then, Constantine.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's not. I would say, Meta, this would be this. Somehow AI is not doing that. It's
No.
definitely not a thumb up. It's a thumb down. And guess what? Today was
sorry,
the
Konstantin.
first case.
Sorry, 1 second, please. I'm really sorry. I have to leave for some time because I got conversation like in 1 minute, and I will come back. Okay, please sorry me about it because
Okay, all right. Come back if you can. Okay, yeah, finish, Constantine.
So the latest and the worst news that I received today is that not only they seized foreign travel passports, they seize regular passports, Russian passports, at the embassies. This is the first time this morning there was a news that a few fellas fled Russia. They weren't just escapees, they're political refugees because they organized some kind of foundation in Russia, and that the Russian government didn't like that a lot. They was criticizing the government, and so they're residing outside, and they came to renew their passports. And one of them was, his regular passport, not foreign travel, but regular Russian document, seized. He had it seized. And once you have it seized, then all your bank accounts, you basically cannot exist in Russia. You cannot, your bank accounts get suspended until you get the valid document, and that's really, really bad. And this started happening. So that's why in my live stream, I even have more news now than 2 days ago. That's why I said that that's the end game for Russian refugees. They have started paying attention to us. They have started taking actions, and they're good. They're very effective. They know what they're doing.
Okay, now look here. I mean, how many of you guys have kept your money in Russia and have just been writing checks against your bank account in Russia? Because if you did that, I would think that wasn't too smart from the get-go, because you should have taken your money out of the country as soon as possible. That's my
Meta,
guess.
we have, most of us, I'd say 99%, have taken our money as soon as we left 2 years ago,
Uh-huh.
almost 2 years ago. Yeah. But it's not just the bank accounts. They put your life in Russia on freeze. You cannot make any legal actions. Your driver's license gets suspended. Your foreign travel passport gets suspended. They try to erase you from civil society in Russia. And then if you don't exist in Russia, they start, that kind of like extends to where you are at the moment.
Mhm.
Because you can't travel to other countries and so forth.
Okay, now that means that everybody who's really thinking about it have pulled up roots anyway, and are trying to settle someplace else. The problem is you can't put down roots in another country so easily. But if you could, how many of you would have been doing that already? So that I mean, my guess is that most of you don't intend to go back to Russia. Even if suddenly everybody saw the light and began to create a wonderful society in Russia, I think a lot of you wouldn't be going back. You want to stay out. But would you be making plans to be a permanent expatriate from Russia? If you could, but I guess the problem is you can't. And Nick, you and Maxine, tell me what about yourselves. How much are you ready to say I'm an ex-Russian? I'm not going back at all, and my ties there are just sentimental and not material.
Well, for example, I'm ready. I'm trying to get to the United States. I also just applied as a federal skilled worker to Canadian immigration program, but unfortunately, it's not that easy. So, but I'm ready. I just need to find a place where I want to stay.
And you would stay. Your intention is you're never going back.
Sure.
Okay. Is that true of you, Maxime?
Yeah, for me, I've already decided that I'm not going back there either. So for me, I'm like the best scenario is probably Australia for me. I really like Melbourne, how it looks, how it feels, the people there. And so I'd glad to find myself someday stayed in Melbourne for the rest of my life.
Okay. I think probably Melbourne would be a great choice. But I've heard of other places. Someplace I've heard that Argentina is letting people in more easily than some other countries. Is that true? Do you have friends who've moved to Argentina?
That is true. We had two families move to Argentina. We had a period of great turbulence in the late 2022, because that's where everyone left Russia, were leaving Russia, and they were using Uzbekistan as a transit point, and they were going to different places. Right now, most of those who wanted to leave, they have left, and the ones who are staying, they kind of have some long-term plans with Uzbekistan, or they like it here. But back then, people were coming and going. And I remember two families. They came, they joined the Breakfast Club, and they went to Argentina. They like it there. As far as I know, they could get legal residence permits. And I think Roman knows one family that he helped to go and move to Argentina.
Mhm.
Another place that is just getting on the radar is Paraguay. Okay, there are some Russians who moved there, and also they like it very much. Not known location whatsoever. I heard of Paraguay, but I didn't even know
I
that
don't
it
know
had
much
an
about it
immigration
either.
program.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a jungle country, basically located in the jungle of Amazonia, between Argentina, Brazil, and Chile. I think it's right in the middle of the
Mhm.
South American continent.
Uh,
So, of course, if you're a millionaire, you're welcome in Dubai. Um, I've heard of some people going to Chile, but that's a hard country to get into. It's not as hard as Canada or the USA or the UK, but it's fairly hard. And the thing is, South America is kind of different culture to us. Different language, different culture, different, very alien. Because we're very like Canadians, like Americans. We speak different language. Well, right now we do speak English. We speak in English, but in general, Russian and English are different. But our values used to be pretty similar. I mean, Meta, you've been to the USSR. You've seen places. You've seen things. You know lots of Russians.
mhm.
Yeah, different, but not alien to each other. And if I go to Southeast Asia, if I go to South America, I feel alien.
Oh, by the way, I heard some rather negative things about Russians in Thailand that, they were rambunctious and offended a lot of people. Is that disinformation that was put out to discredit them, or did you hear something like that too? Huh?
Unfortunately, it's true. It's not just Thailand. It's also even more so in Bali. It's Indonesia. Well, that's true. They come in, they organize communities, they start doing illegal things, they drink, they disregard the locals, they disregard local laws and traditions and history and culture, and well, it happens. But in Bali, they have been taken care of, because Bali and the people in Bali, they decided, hey, we're not gonna put up with that. They just started deporting them back to Russia, and they got things in order. Thailand is a large country. I've been to Thailand myself. I've seen different kinds of Russians. Usually, those who humbly come to Thailand, just like us, they don't misbehave. They respect the locals. They respect culture.
Mhm.
It's those who have no long-term plans, who have money, perhaps connected to the Russian government. Those ones are the troublemakers. Those ones, they don't care. Okay, it's same as in Uzbekistan, same in everywhere. But it's Bali and Thailand. That's just two showcases of that problem.
Can we help? How can we help?
Meta, I would like to reach out to the audience and say that step number one would be inform yourself,
Mhm.
learn about the situation. It's not black and white, okay? Unfortunately, lots of people make their opinions, but not knowing what's really going on. So please educate. There are lots of resources. There's my channel. There's not necessarily my channel, but there's lots of other
No,
places
there's
you can
not
go
a
to.
lot available. That's the problem. You can't, I wouldn't know how to tell people to find out what's going on because I can't figure out what's going on. Anyway, go on.
Okay, but please learn.
All right. I will forward this to Lloyd Axworthy. Lloyd Axworthy is the chair, I think, of the World Council on Refugees and Migration, or it's something close to that title. He might be able to do something or take a position. The organization might, if they want to, and I just don't know. I will see what I can do to promote that. Maxime and Nick, do you have any other suggestions of what we can do?
I think I would say just please don't make any obstacles. Just treat us as other people, like from other countries. We just want to settle somewhere down. We just want to live our lives, to make career, just and to be proficient for the society, for the country. Just
Mhm.
we want to be as a normal people.
I think the people
Yeah.
watching this show probably agree with you and already have that attitude. Problem is, how can we promote that attitude among people who don't necessarily share it? And I don't know. Maxime, do you have any ideas?
Me personally, I agree with things the guy said. I've personally add that I found myself treated as every other man who stayed in Russia sometimes, and that's not the true, guys. That's absolutely not the true. So yeah, I would be very pleased if the situation in Western embassies would be much easier for me, and I wouldn't be treated as unemployed guy who just wanna be unemployed immigrant in Western countries. So yeah.
Well, God bless. I'll do what I can, and I'm have to say I haven't much reason to be hopeful that I can make any impact because I haven't so far. But I'll do what I can because I really believe that that you folks are really peace people, that you're really making the world a better place, and that your attitude is exactly what we should encourage and celebrate. So thank you for your courage, for doing what you're doing, and carry on, and God bless. Okay? Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you
Bye.
very much, Meta.
Thank you.
Bye. Project Save the World produces these forums. This is episode number 616. You can find all 600 plus forums on our website. Just go to savetheworld.ca and look at the scroll window on the home page. You can scroll around until you find a topic that interests you, and then click, and you can watch the forum right there. Project Save the World also produces a short course for people who want to become leaders in the movement to repair the climate. This course is available free of charge on the online learning platform Udemy. It consists of 5 short lessons about the use of soil amendments as a way of removing carbon from the atmosphere and sequestering it in the earth, thereby improving agriculture and increasing the world's food production while reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers. The course is entitled Become a Climate Change Influencer, and you can learn about it by watching this link, www.udemy.com/course/become-climate-change-influencer. Finally, Project Save the World also produces a quarterly online publication, Peace Magazine, which now serves as a free of charge newsletter to help mobilize knowledge about 6 global threats to humankind. We gladly email the magazine as a PDF or link to any interested organization in the world that works to prevent a global catastrophe involving war and weapons, global warming, famine, pandemics, radioactive contamination, or cyber risks. Just email us at office@peacemagazine.org, and we'll add your group's email address without charge to our list. For individual subscriptions at $20 Canadian per year, go to pressreader.com on your browser and search for Peace Magazine.